All right, hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Robert Smirking Gun Reviews, and as promised, I am going to be doing episode to episode on what I consider the best thing I've seen all year, which is The Haunting of Hill House. If you want like a mostly non-spoiler review, watch part 1 of my original review. You can even watch some of part 2 if you want kind of a non-spoiler review. I give mostly in part 2 of that, there are a lot of spoilers. But in this, I like this show so much that I figured I need to go back and talk more about it and give each episode its due. And to give it more detail about something that I just really like. Man, I'm just so happy to talk about it. And I was actually really happy to just go back and rewatch the episode already so soon. I don't usually do that unless I'm like watching like The Walking Dead with my nephew like for the second time or something like that. And that's pretty much like just to see if there's anything I missed. That is the case here too. I caught some things, you know, especially in shows like this, or you know, like scary things. Or whatever, you can catch things that you didn't notice before. So this is Steven Sees a Ghost. There will be full spoilers, but first, so if you haven't seen this episode, if you're looking if you want a recommendation, like I said, go watch my first video, because I don't really feel like not talking about this. I don't want to tiptoe around. So in the description or the title of each of these, it'll say spoilers. So I want to talk about, you get that first impression, where he's talking about the house, whatever's in this house walks alone. You get to see little Nell. She's awake. She's crying, and her older brother Steven. Paxter Singleton plays young Steven, and Violet McGraw plays young Nell. Violet McGraw, man. Look, I know this is just a show, and she's a little actress. She's a little child actress, and she could be a brat in real life. I don't know. But this little girl, man, just steals my heart. I praised it in the first review I did of this. I just can't believe it. So she's talking about how she saw the bent neck lady, and her dad comes in, played by Henry Thomas, and it's just, it's your typical, something scary is in the room, and dad's there to help you, the older brother's there to help, and he does an interesting thing. He says here about how it's like dreams spill out, and if it's big enough, it's like the ocean. And I thought that that's an interesting way of talking about it to a kid, where you're not talking down to them. It may be a little above their their thought processes, but I like that that they say it in a grown-up way, like they're not talking down to their kids, like it's just nothing, it's their imagination and stuff. They say that, but in a nice way, in a way that makes them feel better about seeing something they can't explain. Unfortunately for them, they're fucking wrong, because when I like that the dad goes and he closes the door. And he goes and he listens to the second oldest child, Shirley. She's talking, dreaming. She says, "Dancing in the Red Room." And as we all know, if you've seen all these, if you haven't seen these and you're watching these, episode to episode, and you wanted spoilers, well, here they are. We know the importance of the Red Room and dancing in the Red Room. But then when she says something about pandas don't like macaroni, he thinks she's just dreaming. I have a suspicion that that's not the case, even though, I've seen this. I'm not trying to be non-spoiler here. And them talking, him and Carla Gugino, just having this, oh, how are the kids, all this stuff. But you see that Nell lays back down. She wakes up. The door is open again. The door was open, too. I had to rewind this a couple of times, or not a couple of times, but once. The first time I saw this, I was like, I think he had closed the door. And then I just kind of ignored it. But this time when I watched it, I rewound to make sure that, yeah, he closed the door. He opens up, talks to Shirley, comes back out, and the door is open again. And he just kind of looks at it. He goes back in, yeah, and he closes it. And then she wakes up and the door is open, but she doesn't see anything, and she goes to bed. And that's when you see the frickin' person, the face, the specter or whatever come out of the shadows, and it's just so creepy. Now I do want to speak to the scares in this. I just got a comment, and maybe it's a troll comment, I don't know. But if this show doesn't scare you, fine. You know, for the majority of the first time I watched this, I was set up for peak scares. Okay, I was watching it completely in the dark with my noise canceling headphones on. You know, so the sounds and everything are really amped up. The surroundings are really, you know, designed for maximum scares. And then the other part of this I watched while I was in bed, the same situation. You know, I was very covered up, kind of not scared watching, but that's just how I watch stuff when I'm in bed. Is I kind of just, even like I've said, I could watch Mad Men the same. I watch Mad Men the same way. I watch House the same way. If I'm in bed, I'm watching it kind of like with my face half covered. You know, that's everybody's got their thing, right? So it was maximum scary every episode I watched of this. So if you're not scared by this, you know, if you're sitting in a well-lit room and you're just chilling and, you know, and nothing scares you, fine. But don't tell me that this show was just cheap jump scares. This show, jump scares, in my opinion, all right, I didn't look up the definition, but to me, jump scares are fake outs. Things that are supposed to make you think you're going to see something scary when you don't, like the cat jumping out of a cupboard or somebody coming around the corner and it's like, whoo, in your face. That's a jump scare. Not a little girl laying in her bed and a specter coming over her shoulder out of the dark. That's not a jump scare. If you're not scared by that, that's fine. Just don't call it something that it's not. There are some hard cuts in here where they switched and the sound gets amped up. So like, there's a scene where they go immediately to somebody turning on a light, and they do the sound of the light turning on, like, whew, and it's loud and it's jarring. But that's not a jump scare. That's just a trick that they like to do to kind of get you off your game, you know. And I defy people that tell me that this is all cheap jump scares. I'm sorry. That is something I will not agree with. I will not acknowledge it in the comment section. I will not engage that in the comment section. It's not that important to me, but as far as stating it in the videos, this show is not a jump scare-a-thon. That is not. This show has earned scares. This has genuine creepiness, and with the situation surrounding with a lot of children in these scenes and just general unease that this show oozes. If you can't get past that, that's on you. All right, you don't have to find it scary. All right, maybe what you find scary is something else. Maybe you are the kind of person who's scared of movies like Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers. Maybe what scares you is clowns. Maybe what scares you is sharks. I don't know. What scares me is ghosts and specters and, you know, things that you aren't tangible most of the time. But don't call this jump scare-a-thon, man. Don't say this is cheap jump scares, because it's not. And I don't think you understand what jump scares are if you think that that's what this show is all about. But anyway, to get back on topic, sorry, that kind of razzed me up. So we get to see Steven here, and he's all grown up, and he's writing books, and he does interviews with people that have claimed to have seen things in their life. And in this, he's talking to this lady named Irene. And Irene, okay, this actress, man, let's see if she's in here in the first episode. Are you telling me you don't have this actress in here? You got to be kidding me. All right, I feel really bad that she is not listed in the cast for the first episode. Because Irene here tells such a compelling story. It's scary, and she's just telling you something that happened to her. And the way that they build that, you know, and I think, you know, every part of this builds tension in something that you're just hearing secondhand. It's pretty scary. And you believe that this woman saw something. And it's not done cheesily. It's not done like, you know, like, well, that's over the top or something. It is not over the top. It is like just genuine. There's like a genuine fear in how she's talking about it, and how much she believes it is scary. Now he's so used to hearing it, and he likes to try to explain things, that what we see as ghosts is just things that we can't explain. And over the course of this episode, we get to see, we're introduced to the whole family, but it is kind of his episode. And so let's talk more about that. So we get to meet Nell is the youngest, and she is calling everyone, and everybody keeps hanging up on her. So first, she tries to reach Steven while he's at this thing. And then she tries to call Shirley, who's also doing business at her funeral home, and she hangs up on her. And this is where, she's talking to a family that wants to have an open casket. And you get to hear from this kid who is telling Shirley that the person who died, his grandmother, I believe, isn't really gone. And that every night she comes to him and strokes his hair and stares at him. Then that she must have really tired eyes, or her eyes must really hurt because she doesn't blink. Just this little kid saying that story to you is just creepy because he believes it. And it's a believable way of telling it. I believe that this actor believes what he's saying. And maybe I'm dumb. Maybe I'm getting suckered in. But that's the thing, is that's how something good, you're watching something good. When it pulls you in like that. When scenes like this shouldn't work for me, it works. But she gets called by Nell and ignores the call. And she hears, she listens to the voicemail later about how she's worried about Luke. And she even, she tries to call her dad. And then he he has that thing where he's getting touched by an arm over his face. And then he turns and sees something laying in the bed next to him, and it screams, and he wakes up and gets the phone call, and it's Nell. And she's, he at least talks to her and tells her to go see her brother, but she claims to be in bed when she is outside of the house that they grew up in. And she sees that light, and that's just creepy. And she's going in there, and it's bad. We don't have to know all the answers yet to know that's not good, that she is there, and something terrible is happening to her. We don't really get to see much of Luke in this. We do get to see Theodora, who is going through her own thing. She's got the gloves on. She picks up a girl in a bar. I mean, that's all we really get from her. You can just tell that she's kind of, she says she's a germaphobe, but we all know, if you've seen the whole thing, what that's all about. And I do like that they don't give too much away about any of the other characters except for Steven in this. She tells the girl that she sleeps with to leave, and that, she's got a job, and, she's got to get to work early. She's detached. She's willing to go home and have a one-night stand, but she doesn't want anybody to get too close. Hence the gloves, hence everything. We all know that this all comes from what happened to them as kids. And then they all wake up. There's that whole sequence where they all wake up in their separate places, going like this. I love that they all know what happened, but they all know something, they feel something has happened. And it's all the whole family, except the dad doesn't wake up, I don't believe, with that feeling. It's just the kids, but he has his own thing when it comes to the phone call and stuff. Even Luke wakes up in rehab with that feeling. The whole thing where young Steven is talking to Mrs. Dudley about, she starts telling him about the Bible and stuff, and I love his whole thing of he's a smart kid. He's already well read, and he understands things. He's not some he's written maybe a little too smart for his own for a regular kid, but he likes to read. But the key part in this is when he says, when they want to know where Luke is, and Steven says that he's in the treehouse, and his mother goes, you're funny. That's funny. And the first time watching, you don't know why that's funny. You don't know why that it's interesting that she thinks that's funny until you see the whole thing and you realize why. Oh my God, it's the treehouse thing. I mean, I'm not going to say it here, right? But because I'm going to get to that later. Also, when Mr. Dudley gives Shirley the key so that they can get into the Red Room, And I love little Nell here. Just all the emotions of a little kid and their thought processes is conveyed in innocence of childhood and stuff is in this little scene where this girl just goes through so many little things, where she's, what's behind the door? Is it a cotton candy machine? Is it a pony? And listening to her sister say, the look in her face when she's told that it's probably, if there's a pony in there, it's dead, and how dejected she looks, and that innocent look of, oh, and then she tries to talk like an adult by saying frickin', and just all the things that are happening in there. Like it's so good. When they run off to find the keys, more keys. Also, the fact that key doesn't open the door says something to me about later on too. Like, did Mr. Dudley purposely, I think Mr. Dudley knew that key wasn't going to open that door, but he was just kind of like, maybe if we give them the master key and it doesn't open, that they'll give up on trying to get into that room. We get more of where like Stephen stays in this house to prove, to see if anything's going to happen, with the husband hovering over the bed, and how he does have that where he wakes up with that feeling, and then the water starts dripping on him, and then the car horns and everything, and so it's like how he's able to explain to her the next day, oh, the car horn you heard in this, and what you saw was outside, the stop signs are gone, so near misses. There was a storm, and so the water that was hitting you in the face is from water damage. He's got all these answers for everything. But then when we go to the house where his dad is getting him out of the house, and he was like, going to carry you, keep your eyes closed. I love the whole doorknob thing and how that gets explained later too. And how he rushes out, and he's supposed to have his eyes closed, but he opens them and he does see what looks like his mother kind of clumsily chasing them. So he lied. He said, but these are things that you don't remember all the time when you're a kid. Sometimes it takes a long time for this stuff to get back to you. In fact, when Nell was sleeping on the couch because she didn't want to sleep in her room anymore, and the bent neck lady shows up again when her mom leaves, it made me think of something I hadn't thought about in a while. And I used to live in this upstairs apartment where there had been a fire, and somebody had died in that fire. And there was a time where I remember I used to sleep on the couch. I wouldn't sleep in my room, and it dawned on me. I remembered today, rewatching this, about why I decided to start sleeping on the couch. And I'm not making this up just because I saw this in the show. The show made me remember something that I hadn't thought about in a while, which was I used to sleep in my room in that apartment. And I remember one night, I woke up, but my eyes were closed. And how when you wake up and you don't just open your eyes right away. And I remember I could hear somebody breathing like this close to my face. And it's just, and I wouldn't open my eyes. I was paralyzed because I was like, is that me? Am I just listening to my own breath? And so I held my breath, and I was still hearing it. And eventually, I don't know if I just fell asleep from just fear or just time, but I remember after that, I started sleeping out in the living room on the couch, and I never slept in my room again. And it's just crazy how you can forget something like that. You'd think you'd never forget it. You'd think that some of this stuff like that would just stay with you forever. It's always there, but sometimes it takes something to jog your memory. And just thinking about that creeps me out. Yeah. Because I remember I didn't know that somebody had died in there until after I had started sleeping outside the couch, outside in the living room. And somebody later told me, before I moved out of there even, that one of the reasons that this one door in the house was damaged was because of fire damage. And I didn't know that. They said, yeah, the person who used to live here died up there from smoke inhalation. So, yeah, freaky. So we get to the part here where Stephen's coming home after telling her about this and everything, and her kind of realizing that he's kind of a fraud. even though we know that he's seen something. The scene with the lawyer and, you know, the tabloids and stuff, and how people, like, his dad was, you know, like Shirley saying that his dad only said those things because he was scared and he didn't know, you know, wasn't thinking. He was caught up in the moment. It's like, no, he was saying the truth because he was caught up in the moment. It was all fresh. How do you forget, you know, like, it all just comes out, you know, and so it's all, you know, later on when they grow up, they say, oh, it's just the tabloids, and, you know, dad was just freaked out and he didn't know what else to say and blah, 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 blah. But, you know, really what the memory was is him trying to protect his kids from having to be exposed to, you know, being followed with this for the rest of their lives, and trying to hide it from them so that he could protect them from the truth. But then Steven, you know, we get Steven in the present, comes home, finds Luke has broken into his house and is stealing things. And as we know, like from future episodes, that Luke was, you know, he's in rehab, he got his 90-day chip, but now seems to be back to his old ways. He's ripping off his brother, but Steve pays him $200 to go, you know, just go away, you know, like, because it's like old hat for them. Luke's breaking into your house to steal stuff so he can, you know, get heroin. And, you know, even though Luke says, you know, this is not what this is for, he doesn't believe it. And he should, you know, it's just old hat. Just, here's the money, just go do what you're going to do. I can't stop you, you know, that kind of thing. But when he gets in the house and he turns in the light and there's Nell standing there in the dark, and then, you know, he's talking to her like normal, like, what the hell, you watching him like loot my place? And, you know, then his dad calls and tells, you know, and I love that, you know, he's facing away from this Nell, and she's all like in the back, you know, out of focus, and he's being told that she's dead. And then he turns around and she's right there. That's not a jump scare. That's a legitimately earned scare. She was in the background, unfocused. He turns, she's right there. That is a genuine scare, not a jump scare. A jump scare fakes you out, and her just standing there as she totally turns gray and opens her, like, and screams, and he falls down, and that is fucking creepy and scary as hell. If you were just in your house and you get told your sister's dead and she's standing in front of you screaming and turning gray, that's not scary? That's a cheap jump scare? Jesus Christ, man. That's still, like watching it the second time, I was still like tense, even though I knew what was going to happen. It's just effective. And just so well acted. And this whole show, it's so, like, I know maybe it takes itself a little too seriously, but it does have tropes and it does have some cliches, but it doesn't have jump scares. Not really. And this first episode is just so great. And I think I've pretty much covered just about everything except, when Nellie is dancing in the house by herself. And it's like, if you've seen all the episodes, you know what's really going on, but that is what is really happening, but it is not what she sees. And you know that that's not what she sees, but they don't reveal it until later. And it's so freaking great that this show is fragmented the way it is. Because I was trying to watch it again, and somebody who hadn't seen the rest of the episodes is not understanding any of this. And I'm like, you just watch the whole thing. Everything will come together in the end. And it will all make sense into this neat, perfect little package. So anyway, that's Steven Sees a Ghost. As this goes on, hopefully, if this wasn't very good, I don't know. I know I can be all over the place when I talk about stuff, but it's just how my brain works. So anyway, if you like this video, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe. Let me know how I'm doing on these. We hit 400 subscribers yesterday or the day before, maybe, like in the middle of the night. So I just want to thank everybody for all the support. It means so much to me that we do this. Coming soon, there will be in the next couple of months, less than a month probably, I am getting a better camera. So hopefully with more capabilities, I'll be able to do some different things with these reviews, make them more polished, edited up, things like that. So I just want to thank everybody for giving me the motivation to want to make better videos. So hopefully you guys will come back for the second episode. It'll probably be tomorrow. I'm going to start parceling out my videos a little bit more when I don't have to binge watch a show. So that's about it. Thank you again. This is Robert Smirking Gun Review saying we will see you on the next video. Bye.